The Drazari Empire was old, proud, and ruthless. They ruled 100 star systems with sharp claws and colder hearts. For centuries, they crushed rebellions, enslaved weaker species, and erased entire civilizations from the stars. When the humans were first discovered on a small blue planet at the edge of a dead spiral arm, the Drazari didn't even send a diplomat. They sent a scout drone, one of the cheap ones, just to record the surface. It picked up images of ruined cities, old battlefields, satellites circling overhead. To the Drazari, Earth looked abandoned, broken, silent, wrong. The drone's mistake was simple. It arrived 3 weeks after Earth's last great war, a war that had torn the planet in half. Billions had died. Governments had fallen. The survivors were buried deep underground, nursing wounds and rebuilding in silence. The skies were quiet, not because Earth was weak, but because it was angry, healing, and watching. The drone returned home with its false report. The Drazari Council met the next day. Primitive species, already destroyed itself. Minimal threat. Easy to claim. Mining rights, salvage, bioharvest. Send reclamation squad. Begin stripping the surface. A fleet of 20 ships was dispatched. Heavy cruisers, destroyers, and troop carriers. Their job was simple. Scan the ruins, find anything valuable, and turn the rest into raw materials. They didn't bring peace. They didn't bring translators. They brought fire. The Drazari fleet entered orbit without warning. They dropped thermal, bombs into Earth's cities, melting glass and steel into pools of slag. They laughed in their command decks as charred skeletons baked on sidewalks. They called it cleansing, but underground, beneath miles of broken stone and radiation-burned soil, humanity watched and remembered. The last war had changed them. There were no more presidents, no more armies or borders. There was only the net, a hidden network linking bunkers, labs, and survivors. For years, they had planned for another attack. They didn't know if it would come from their own kind, or from the stars. It didn't matter. They were ready. On the third day of the Drazari bombing campaign, a fleet scout ship vanished. No explosion, no distress call. One moment it was scanning. A crater the next moment, nothing. Gone, erased from the system like a glitch. The Drazari command dismissed it. Probably an engine failure, maybe even a suicide drone from a leftover military cache. The next day, 2 more ships disappeared. This time, their last transmissions were strange. Muffled screams, lights flickering, shadows moving inside their own halls. The Drazari grew cautious. They deployed gunships, sent swarms of drones into the craters. Still nothing. Then, late that night, Earth spoke. A transmission, rough, broken, but unmistakably human. You made a mistake. The voice was slow, cold. A woman's voice, with a sharp edge like a knife dragged across stone. You thought we were dead. You thought we were weak. You thought you could take what you want. The Drazari command ship broadcast back instantly. Identify yourself. You are trespassing in occupied airspace. Surrender now or be eliminated. Silence. Then, you just declared war on the most lethal species alive. The signal cut. Seconds later, the command ship's lights flickered, then dimmed. For 10 long seconds, nothing happened. Then the bridge screen lit up, not with radar, not with data, but with video, footage, from inside their own ship, their own halls. Except now, something was moving in them. Tall figures, human-shaped but faster, covered in matte black armor, almost invisible in the dark. They moved without sound. Guns didn't stop them. Lasers didn't touch them. They were ghosts. And one by one, the Drazari crew screamed and vanished into the dark. The footage ended with a single message in red letters. We are awake now. The Drazari fleet panicked. They sent evacuation orders. They tried to retreat. Too late, all across orbit, systems began to fail. Engine cores locked up. Doors refused to open. AI interfaces turned against their users, suffocating them in sealed rooms. Power grids overloaded and exploded. Earth had hacked them. No one knew how. The Drazari believed themselves superior in every way: tech, intelligence, power. But they had underestimated the one thing humans had always been best at: survival. In their war-torn silence, humanity had turned to weapons not made of metal, but code. Viruses, worms, AI assassins, quantum hacks that could twist a starship's brain into knots. And worse, they had built soldiers, not born, but made. Ghost units. Human minds inside cloned bodies, trained only to kill. No names, no emotions. Just purpose. The first wave of these soldiers had boarded the command ship within minutes. The Drazari never stood a chance. Down below, deep inside Earth's central bunker, the woman who had sent the message stood watching. Her name was Captain Mara Quinn, once a general in the old Earth War, now commander of the Ghost Fleet. Around her, screens showed the Drazari burning. One of her officers leaned forward. "Should we let any escape? Spread the warning?" Mara's face was stone. No, not yet. She knew how this worked. Empires didn't listen to warnings. They only understood pain. Letting one ship escape would only invite a second wave, larger and more brutal. So she gave the order. Finish them. In orbit, the last Drazari ship tried to run. It didn't make it 5 miles before it cracked apart from the inside. Its own life support systems weaponized against it. Within 10 hours, the entire Drazari reclamation fleet was gone. Not a single distress signal escaped. Earth went dark again, but only for now, because Mara knew this was only the beginning. The Drazari wouldn't ignore 20 missing ships. They would send scouts, then fleets, then armies. Good, let them come. She turned to her team, prepped the signal, broadcast across the sector. Let everyone know what happened here. "What message, Captain?" Mara smiled, but there was no joy in it. Just fire. Tell them Earth still lives. Far across the galaxy, in the golden towers of the Drazari. Homeworld. The High Lord of the Empire leaned forward as the first whisper reached his ears. An entire fleet gone. No survivors, no evidence, and one strange message, captured by a distant relay station. "Congratulations, you just declared war on the most lethal species alive." The High Lord frowned. Then he laughed. He didn't believe it. He would. The Drazari Empire had never lost a fleet before, not like this. No debris, no prisoners, no escape pods, nothing. It was as if the ships had vanished into a black hole, and that frightened the Council more than any open battle ever could. "High Lord." Verox slammed a clawed hand on the table. "You expect me to believe that 20 of our finest warships were taken down by primitives? A species that nuked itself into ruin?" The room of advisors stayed silent. Only one dared speak. "Lord Admiral Takesh, old and scarred from dozens of wars. They didn't nuke themselves, High Lord. That was our first mistake. Earth wasn't destroyed. It was hiding." Verox's eyes narrowed. "You mean to tell me they tricked our scanners?" "They tricked us, my lord. They made us think they were dead. All this time they were preparing." Another counselor hissed. "This is nonsense. There is no data, no distress calls, no combat logs. This reeks of sabotage from within." But Takesh tapped his claws on the table, slow and deliberate. "We recovered something. A partial message. Broadcast from the edge of the Zarnith relay. He activated a projector. A dark screen appeared, then a voice. Crackling, broken but sharp. 'You are not the first. You will not be the last. Come to Earth and you will fall, like the others.' Then the image of a human skull, half metal, half bone, burning red eyes, and one sentence etched beneath it. 'Let the galaxy remember who we are.' Takesh let the silence hang before turning to Verox. If this is a bluff, it's a damn good one. Verox leaned back in his chair. Then we will respond. The only way they understand. He turned to his warlords. Send the eradicators. Flatten the planet. Leave no rock standing. Takesh opened his mouth, hesitated. High Lord, with respect, if they destroyed our fleet, then we send 5 fleets. If Earth wants war, we'll show them the power of a true empire. Back on Earth, deep underground, Mara Quinn watched the sky. She stood on a steel platform. Inside Bunker Atlas, the largest command center left on the planet. All around her, technicians moved fast, whispering into radios, updating maps, tracking signals. The silence was gone now. Earth was awake. Above her, a holographic map showed a dozen red blips entering the edge of the solar system. Drazari Fleets, her second-in-command said. His name was Eli Travers, a tall, sharp-eyed strategist once trained in orbital warfare back before the fall. They're not sending scouts this time, Eli said. This is a full response. 5 fleets. Estimated 600 ships. Mara didn't blink. They're scared. Eli nodded. And angry. Good. Fear makes them sloppy. She turned to the dark wall behind her. A massive sealed vault. Door stood there, lined with hazard symbols and biometric locks. Are the red projects ready? Eli hesitated. Mostly. Project Revenant is still unstable. We haven't tested. We don't have time. Mara walked toward the vault. As the door opened, cold air hissed out, carrying a strange scent, metal, ozone, and something older. Inside were the most dangerous tools Earth had ever built. Project Revenant, Project Locust, Project Helix, weapons that made nukes look like toys. Forbidden technologies created during Earth's last days. Most nations had agreed to bury them forever. But Mara never planned to obey those treaties. She knew even then that one day Earth would face something worse than itself. Now, that day had come. 2 days later, the Drazari fleets entered Earth's orbit. They came fast without warning, and they came to kill. Their plan was simple. Overwhelm all resistance. Saturate the atmosphere with fire. Bomb every bunker and crack the surface open like an egg. It didn't go as planned. The first sign that something was wrong came when the lead destroyer's sensors failed. It lost lock on Earth. Then its engines cut out. Then its crew started screaming. Internal. Cams caught it. Something crawling through the air vents. Something human-shaped, but wrong. Too fast. Too silent. One by one, the destroyer's crew went dark. The ship turned toward one of its allies and opened fire. The fleet commander barked. Orders. Contain the virus. Shut it down. Purge the AI. But it was too late. Project Revenant had already spread. Inside the command ship, the admiral stared at the live feed. A virus born in a human brain, coded by madmen, now living inside machines. It infected faster than light. Turned friend into enemy in seconds. The eradicators had no defense. Then Earth launched, but not missiles, pods, thousands of them. They tore through the atmosphere like hail. The Drazari expected bombs. But when they scanned the pods, they found humans, not soldiers, not pilots, ghosts, black armor, red eyes, silent, Project Locust. Each pod opened midair, releasing a swarm. They landed on Drazari ships, burrowed into the hulls and spread like insects. Hulls melted, engines imploded. Command bridges fell to silent blades and silent bullets. The Drazari fired everything they had, and Earth responded with something worse. From the dark side of the moon, an old human station activated. Long dormant, long forgotten, Project Helix. A gravity weapon built during the war, never tested, until now. It twisted space-time around the Drazari fleet's center. Ships collided with themselves. Time loops formed inside command decks. Some. Drazari aged 100 years in 5 seconds. Others screamed forever inside frozen seconds. It was hell, but it was human. Inside Bunker Atlas, Mara watched as the red dots blinked off the map, one by one. No joy, no victory cries, just silence. She turned to her team. Scan for survivors. Eli raised an eyebrow. Why? So they can report back? No, she said. So we can send them back. Out of 600 ships, only one made it. Crippled. Burned. Barely able to fly. It limped. Back to Drazari space. Took weeks. By the time it arrived, the High Lord was already preparing the next wave. He stood in the war chamber when the broken ship's message arrived. The single Drazari captain left alive collapsed onto the floor of the palace. His armor was cracked. His mind was shattered. His voice shook. They're not human, he whispered. They're monsters. The High Lord sneered. We are the Drazari. We've faced monsters before. The captain looked up. No. You don't understand. We didn't attack a planet. He paused, shaking, weeping. We kicked the gates of hell. Then he screamed, until the guards dragged him away. The room was silent, until the holoscreen lit up again. A new signal. Human. Clear this time. Mara Quinn's face appeared. Calm. Unafraid. I warned you once, she said. Now I'll speak. Clearly so even your kind can understand. She leaned closer to the camera. This is Earth, and we are the apex predators of this galaxy. You came to our home. You burned our cities. You killed our children. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Now, we're coming for you. Then she smiled. Just a little. Congratulations. You just declared war on the most lethal species alive. The message ended, and the war truly began. The stars were no longer safe. The Drazari Empire had ruled this galaxy's core for over 1,000 years. Their fleets had crushed dozens of species. Their dreadnoughts had blackened skies from Loran Namae to the ice moons of Viras. No enemy had ever reached their home system, until now. It began with silence. Trade routes near the outer rim stopped reporting in. Patrol ships vanished. Then entire border stations went dark. At first, the High Council blamed pirates, rogue AI, internal sabotage. But deep down, they already knew the truth. It was Earth, and Earth wasn't hiding anymore. Captain Mara Quinn stood in the forward observation bay of the Lazarus, Earth's first rebuilt warship since the last war. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't pretty. It was patched together from old orbital scrap, fallen satellites, even the wreckage of the first Drazari fleet, but it was dangerous and fast. The Lazarus ran cold now, gliding through the dark between systems. Around it flew a dozen others, stealth ships, ghost carriers, drone pods, no banners, no insignia, just silent death. Behind her, Eli Travers stepped in, reading from a tablet. Forward recon has confirmed 3 Drazari colony worlds, gone. Infrastructure crippled. Orbital docks destroyed. Evac pods shot down before they could reach hyperspace. Losses? Mara asked. Minimal. A few drones. No human casualties. She nodded. This was how they fought now. Not like before. No more. Armies marching in rows. No more speeches or alliances. Earth didn't play that game. They hunted, and the Drazari were prey. In the Drazari capital, panic spread like a virus. Meetings ran late into the night. Systems were locked down. Civilian transports were grounded. Whole sectors were sealed off from travel. Still, Earth's ghost fleet moved in the dark. A convoy of merchant ships disappeared without a trace. A supply depot on Gelayan Prime was found, melted from the inside out. Its gravity field turned against it. Then came the message. Again. This time, it played across a dozen hacked Drazari broadcasts. Mara Quinn's voice. Calm. Unstoppable. You had your chance. You called us animals. You called us extinct. Her face filled every screen in every Drazari city, but now you learn the only thing more dangerous than a human with something to protect is one with nothing left to lose. Then the screen cut to a countdown timer. Just numbers. No explanation. Just ticking. The Drazari Council lost its mind. What does it mean? Screamed one warlord. What are they planning? Takesh, the only one who had spoken up from the beginning, answered coldly. It means you made a mistake you can't fix. The timer reached 0 at the edge of Drazari Sector 6. An old, mining moon, long abandoned, suddenly exploded, but not from the outside, from deep within. The humans had planted something. No one knew when. The explosion tore a hole in local space-time. A rupture. It swallowed nearby ships. The shock wave reached nearby planets, knocking their weather systems off balance. It was the galaxy's first taste of anti-reality warfare, something only the humans had ever dared try. Drazari communications crumbled under the weight of fear, and then Earth made its first demand, a single encrypted signal, bouncing between Drazari systems faster than they could track it. Withdraw. From every human-claimed zone, every planet, every asteroid, every inch. They didn't mention what would happen if the demand was refused. They didn't have to. The next colony that ignored it disappeared. Literally, Drazari ships arrived to find a bare rock. No buildings, no atmosphere, no life. As if it had never existed. Earth had erased it. The council convened in terror. High Lord Verox pounded the table, voice trembling with fury. This is impossible. No species can do this. No species should. Takesh stared hard at him. You're right. What? They're not a species anymore. They're something else. Something worse. Verox hissed. Then we answer with fire. Launch the scourge bombs. Wipe the sector clean. But Takesh didn't flinch. You launch those, and Earth will respond. And not just to your fleets. Verox froze. What are you saying? I'm saying they know where we live now. Verox's eyes widened. He was right. Inside the Lazarus, Mara stood before a hollow map of the Drazari homeworld. Her face was cold, unforgiving. All targets mapped? She asked. Eli nodded. Palace, Council Tower, defense grid nodes, civilian zones marked for exclusion, if you still want to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Mara didn't answer right away. Then, for now, she looked up. Deploy the seeds. Eli tapped his tablet. Aye, Captain. Dozens of small, dark pods launched from stealth ships far from the Drazari core. They were invisible to scanners, silent, slow. They would take days to reach orbit, but once they did, Earth would no longer be on the defensive. It would strike at the very heart of the Empire. On the edge of Drazari space, a small outpost received an unexpected transmission. It was ancient, human, cracked and damaged. At first they thought it was random. Then they played it aloud, a recording from centuries ago, a human soldier's voice from Earth's last war. Tired, wounded, angry. If you're hearing this, we're not coming back. They took everything. Family, friends, cities. Static buzzed. Then, but if we can't win, we'll make sure no one else does either. The outpost commander stared at the screen. Another voice cut in, modern, clear, Mara Quinn. We remember everything, then silence. The outposts? AI reported a high probability breach. Too late. The outpost blinked off the map. Back in the Drazari capital, paranoia bloomed like wildfire. Guards lined every street. Ships were grounded. And yet, people vanished in the night. Whispers of black armored. Humans appearing in alleyways. Drazari officers found dead in sealed rooms. Entire databanks stolen. The ghost fleet was no longer at the gates. It was inside. Mara watched it all unfold from her command chair aboard the Lazarus. The stars outside didn't shine like they used to. Too many flames. Too many broken ships. Eli entered quietly. We just intercepted internal Drazari transmissions. They're beginning full evacuation protocols on their outer colonies. Good, Mara said. That wasn't the best part. He handed her a tablet, a classified Drazari report. Title, Potential Terms of Surrender. She stared at it. No, smile. Just focus. They're scared. They should be, Eli said. Mara's eyes narrowed. They think surrender will save them. Eli hesitated. Will it? Mara didn't answer. Not yet, because she knew something the Drazari didn't. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about memory, legacy, fear. She leaned back and stared out the window. The stars trembled. And far, away, in the dark corners of the galaxy, other empires watched. Silently, some afraid, others curious. But all of them were now wondering the same thing. What happens when the most broken species in history finally decides to break everything else? They were about to find out. Far beyond the Drazari homeworld, in the black space between systems, the ship known as the Lazarus drifted like a ghost. Captain Mara Quinn stood on its command bridge, staring at the tactical map. The Drazari territories pulsed in red. Earth's ghost fleet, small, quiet, invisible, moved like knives beneath a cloak. They were everywhere, and nowhere. Around her, the crew worked in silence. Most were soldiers who had survived the last war. Others were grown, engineered minds in cloned bodies, trained only for one thing, ending threats. Mara turned to Eli Travers, her second in command. How many? He didn't ask what she meant. He already knew. 312 ships, 9 colony worlds, 16 major industrial outposts. Gone. Mara didn't blink. Human losses? 37, mostly drone units. A long pause. We're getting too good at this, Eli muttered. Mara's voice was ice. We have to be. Eli nodded. They weren't fighting for territory. They weren't fighting for peace. They were teaching a lesson, one the galaxy would never forget. Meanwhile, the Drazari Council was tearing itself apart. High Lord Verox paced the chamber, claws clicking against polished stone. This isn't a war, he snarled. It's slaughter. Admiral Takesh watched quietly. They warned us. Verox slammed his fist on the war table. They're humans. We crush stronger species than them. Takesh leaned forward. You thought they were animals. They're not. They're something worse. He tapped the table. A hologram of Earth appeared. Still dark, still silent, but now feared. They don't just fight to win. They fight to remind. Remind who? Takesh's voice dropped to a whisper. Everyone! Across the galaxy, other empires watched from behind closed systems. The Veiled Dominion, the Coldfire Accord, the Hive of Exos 3. All had once looked down on humanity as weak, unworthy, primitive. But now, they were reconsidering. On a moon colony ruled by the Vael, a young diplomat whispered to her superior, "What if Earth turns its eyes on us next?" Her elder clicked his mandibles. Then we pray they remember who stayed out of it. But that was the thing. Humans didn't forget, not the allies, and definitely not the enemies. Inside the Lazarus, the AI network flickered to life. A signal was captured, not Drazari, not a trap, a whisper, an offer. Mara stepped forward as the transmission decrypted. It was a message from a neutral sector, the Myrixi, a species known for neutrality and intelligence. Their leader appeared on screen, a tall, thin being with glowing skin and no eyes. "I speak on behalf of those who listen," he said softly. Mara watched, silent. "We see what you are doing, what you've become. The Drazari made a mistake, but not all of us did. We stayed out. We kept away from your planet. We never joined their war." Mara's face was unreadable. The Myrixi hesitated. We ask only this. When your war is done, remember who didn't stand against you. The screen went black. Eli looked to Mara. Well? She gave a single nod. Mark them as spared. For now. Then she turned back to the map. Her gaze focused on the Drazari core world. Their capital. Their pride. The time is close. Eli exhaled. We're going to hit the throne world? Mara said nothing. She didn't have to. They all knew the answer. The Drazari capital was chaos. Ships evacuated in waves. The military drafted civilians to guard power stations, afraid of ghost sabotage. AI networks were cut off from the interstellar grid. Too many viruses, too many breaches. But it was already too late. The seeds had been planted, literally. In the skies above the capital world, dark pods began to appear, invisible to most radar, small enough to slip between satellites. They opened silently, and out came shadows. Project Ashfall. Not soldiers, not machines, but something new. Bioweapons bred in Earth's last days, designed to survive in vacuum, designed to hunt. They slipped into systems, into air vents, into water supplies. And they waited. High Lord Varrock stood on the balcony of the Sky Citadel. From here, he could see the defense grid flare to life, thousands of plasma cannons, shield towers. All useless, because the enemy wasn't outside. They were already here. Varrock turned to his advisors. I want every remaining fleet recalled. I want the skies locked down. Nothing in, nothing out. But as he spoke, a sound echoed through the halls. Not an explosion, not a scream. A laugh, soft, mocking. They turned to the wall screen, hijacked. A woman stared back. Human, cold eyes, scarred face. Mara Quinn. She didn't yell, she didn't threaten. She simply said, We warned you. You chose pride. Behind her, a fleet unfolded from the dark. Earth's largest deployment since the last war. The Drazari world was about to burn. Your empire ends today. The screen cut. Panic broke loose. Ships rose from Earth's moon, silent, fast, and untraceable. They had no names, no flags, only orders. Strike the Drazari heart. End the war. The Lazarus led the way. Inside its command deck, Mara tightened her armor, the seal clicking over her neck. Eli handed her a small chip. This is the last of the virus payloads. We inserted into the planetary AI core. We shut down every Drazari system on world. Mara took it. This ends tonight. He hesitated. And after. She met his eyes. There is no after. There's only what comes next. Down below in the palace bunker, Varrock received the final message from his outer colonies. Destroyed. All of them. Billions gone. And now, Earth's shadow fell over his home. He looked up at the ceiling and knew. This wasn't just war. This was punishment. Old, ruthless, deserved. The Drazari hadn't made enemies. They had made humans remember who they were. And now, there was no escape. The Drazari homeworld was no longer a fortress. It was a tomb. The Shadow Fleet had arrived. In the black silence of space, ships glided like predators circling prey. Inside the Sky Citadel, High Lord Varrock paced restlessly. The planet's defense, grid flickered under constant assault, gravity wells, energy pulses, weapon fire. But Mara Quinn's ghost fleet did not attack like an army. They struck like a virus. Every few minutes, a new system failed. Communications died. Power grids exploded. Shield nodes collapsed. And inside the city, strange fires burned. Fires that left no ash, only silence. Varrock's advisors shouted, We must evacuate. We must negotiate. But Varrock shook his head. Negotiation is for those who believe they still have time. Outside his window, the first dropships pierced the atmosphere. They came without warning. Black armor, silent weapons, ghosts of Earth's last war. Captain Mara Quinn stood on the command deck of the Lazarus, watching the city below burn. She didn't celebrate. She didn't cheer. War was never victory. It was survival. Her voice came over the comm. Deploy the ashfall units. Outside, pods released into the atmosphere. The bioweapons spread like wildfire. They tore through defenses. No shields could stop them. No walls could hold. Verox's elite guards fought bravely, but against the ashfall, they were helpless. The creatures moved too fast, too deadly. One by one, Drazari officers fell. In the heart of the city, Verox's palace shook. Explosions rattled walls. His guards were overrun. The High Lord was forced to retreat to the deepest bunker. His face was pale. His claws trembled. "Call for reinforcements," he ordered, but all signals were dead. The network was broken. His empire was falling apart. Meanwhile, Mara received a message from Earth's outer colonies. "Captain, we've detected unusual readings from the Drazari Central AI." Eli read, "The data, it's trying to reboot, regain control." Mara nodded. "We have one chance. Insert the final virus." She stood. "This will end the war." Inside the deepest chamber of the Sky Citadel, the AI core pulsed. It was alive and desperate. Mara's team breached the bunker. They moved fast, silent, deadly. The virus chip was inserted. Systems overloaded, lights flickered. Then everything stopped. The AI went dark. Outside, the Drazari capital fell silent. No more shields, no more weapons, only smoke. Mara looked out at the ruined city. "Tell the fleet, the war is over." But far away in a hidden star system, a transmission crackled. A warning from an unknown source. "Earth's war is just beginning." The voice was distorted. Human? Alien? No one knew. Only one thing was certain. The galaxy had awakened the most lethal species alive, and they were only getting started. After the fall of the Drazari capital, the galaxy thought the war was over. It wasn't. If anything, it had just begun. Captain Mara Quinn stood on the deck of the Lazarus, watching the stars. Her face was tired, her eyes sharper than ever. Around her, the ghost fleet prepared for the next move, because the Drazari Empire was broken, but not beaten. Far from the core, in a forgotten nebula, the Drazari High Council gathered again. Verox was gone, replaced by a new leader, ruthless and unyielding. "Lord, Koresh, he had a different plan." "No more mistakes," Koresh said. "We fight fire with fire." The council nodded. They had called old allies, mercenaries, pirates, even the hive of Exos 3, anyone willing to strike back at Earth. The galaxy was about to burn. Back on Earth, Mara received intelligence. "Multiple fleets from different factions are assembling," Eli said. "Not just Drazari," Mara said grimly. "They're scared and angry." She looked out into space. "They think they can stop us." Eli frowned. "They don't understand." Mara's voice dropped. "They don't know humans. The Ghost Fleet struck first. They hit supply lines, communication hubs. Hidden. Weapons depots, silent and swift. They crippled enemy forces before battles began. But the cost was high. Each victory meant more lives lost, more ghosts added to their ranks. One night, Mara sat alone. She opened a hollow message from an old friend, a survivor from Earth's last war. "Do you ever wonder," the message said, "if all this fighting is worth it?" Mara's hands clenched. "Yes," she whispered. "But we fight because we must. Because if we don't, someone worse will." The next day, the fleet gathered. Mara stood before them. "We don't fight for glory. We fight for survival." She paused. "For Earth. For every world that wants to be free, the fleet cheered silently. Because words were useless now, only action mattered. In the dark reaches of space, the new enemy fleets moved closer. The final battle was coming, and Mara knew one truth. No matter what happened, humanity would survive. Because they were the most lethal species alive, and they were ready. The final battle had arrived. In the shadow of a dying star, the galaxy's greatest fleets gathered. The Drazari, the Mercenaries, the Hive of Exos 3, the Vial Dominion, all united against one enemy, Earth. Captain Mara Quinn stood on the Lazarus's bridge, watching the enemy lines. They outnumbered her by thousands. Ships blazed like fireflies in the dark, but Mara felt no fear, only calm. "We fight not because we want war," she said quietly, "but because we refuse to lose." Eli stood beside her. "Ready the fleet, Captain." She nodded. "Let them come." The battle erupted in a storm of light and sound. Lasers tore through void. Missiles blazed trails of destruction. Ships collided and exploded, but the Ghost Fleet fought like shadows. They struck hard and vanished. They used every trick, every weapon. Even the Drazari were stunned. Inside the chaos, Mara led a squadron deep into enemy lines. Their target, the enemy command ship, the heart of the fleet. They breached its defenses. Inside, Mara confronted the enemy commander, a brutal warrior, scarred and angry. He sneered. "You think you can win?" Mara smiled. "No, I know we will." A fierce fight broke out. Blades clashed. Guns roared. But Mara's team was stronger, faster, smarter. The enemy fell. Mara activated the ship's self-destruct. Time to end this. Outside, the enemy fleet faltered. Without their command, confusion spread. Ships retreated. Fleets broke apart. Victory was close. Back on the Lazarus, Mara watched as survivors surrendered. She sent a message across the galaxy. War is over. But remember this: we are humanity, the most lethal species alive, and we never forget. The galaxy was changed forever. Empires bowed. Allies sought peace, and Earth stood tall, not just as a planet, but as a warning to anyone who dared declare war on the most lethal species alive. Because in the end, they learned what humans had always known: when cornered, humanity fights back and never stops.